Okay, just a quick chapter about structure of the kidney and function, just to review anatomy and physiology. The kidneys process about 1,700 liters of blood a day. That is a ton. And combine its waste products into about 1.5 liters of urine. They are responsible for filtration. They actually reabsorb good minerals and volume back into the body. They help to regulate blood pressure by playing a huge role in the renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system, and they have an endocrine function as well. As you see here, and should remember from anatomy, you have a pair of kidneys. They are bean shaped and sit outside the peritoneal cavity in the back. The indented portion that you see on each kidney is called the hilus. There is also an outer cortex and then the inner medulla. In the outer cortex, you have the glomeruli, the convoluted tubules, and the blood vessels. And then the inner medulla is where you have your renal pyramids. The nephrons are the functional units of the kidney, the functional cells of the kidney, and each kidney has about 1 million nephrons. Each nephron has its own glomerulus and its tubular component, as you can see here. The glomerulus is a high-pressure capillary system. It works to either dilate or it can constrict in order to regulate the capillary pressure there within the glomerulus. It is encased in Bowman's capsule. The blood flows into the glomerular capillaries through the afferent arteriole and flows out through the efferent arteriole to the tubular capillaries, and this is where blood is filtered. The tubular components consist of the proximal convoluted tubule, which drains Bowman's capsule, the loop of Henle, the distal convoluted tubule, the collecting tubule, and each the filtrate that is removed or that is passing through those tubular components passes through before it reaches the pelvis of the kidney. And you can see that again here. It's amazing too that each kidney has about 1 million nephrons, and then as you see that they've made this nephron bigger so that you can see the capillary system within, how intricate that development is. There are two types of nephrons, cortical and juxtamedullary. The cortical nephrons make up about 85%. They originate in the superficial cortex, and they have very short loops of Henle that barely reach down to the medulla. The juxtamedullary nephrons, they're about 15% of those. They are deeper in the cortex. They have longer, thinner loops, and they reach further down into the medulla. These are the ones that are work very detailed with urine concentration. Urine formation depends on the filtration of the glomeruli, any reabsorption that occurs in the tubules, and then secretion. Let's start with filtration process. Urine formation begins with the filtration of fluid through those glomerular capillaries into Bowman's space or Bowman's capsule. Glomerular filtrate is very similar to plasma, but it has less proteins. About 125 milliliters of filtrate is formed each minute, and that is referred to as our glomerular filtration rate, and it can be affected by either the dilation or the constriction of both the afferent or efferent arteriole. The filtrate then moves from Bowman's capsule to the tubular components of the nephron. While it moves through those tubular sections, then substances from the fluid will be reabsorbed into the blood. Things that need to be used will be reabsorbed into the blood. And then other substances will be secreted from the blood and absorbed by the filtrate. About 65% of all reabsorption and secretion processes occur in the proximal tubule. Water and urea, which is the end product of protein metabolism, are passively absorbed along concentration gradients. Sodium, potassium, chloride, some of your other electrolytes, glucose, those things are reabsorbed via active transport. Usually only about 1 milliliter of that 125 milliliter GFR, or glomerular filtrate formed each minute is going to be excreted in urine. The rest of that, the other 123, 124 milliliters, is reabsorbed in the tubules and is going to be reused by the body. Kidneys filter the blood, meaning that they take good things out of the blood and so that the body can reuse those things. They also regulate fluid volume. They take out any waste or toxins that need to be rid and gotten out of the body. They control the amount of electrolytes, or work with the control of electrolytes. They help to maintain blood pressure, and they work with acid-base regulation, if you remember that from our acid-base lecture. The kidneys also play a role in endocrine function by being in the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system. If you remember from that, when the volume of fluid going to the kidneys decreases, or blood pressure decreases because of a lack of fluid or volume, then the kidneys will release renin, which starts the whole process into play. Renin stimulates the change from angiotensinogen to angiotensin 1, which then converts to angiotensin 2, which then causes the adrenal gland to secrete aldosterone. And remember, it's the kidney that plays the final role in that by reabsorbing sodium. If you reabsorb sodium, you're going to reabsorb water, which then causes blood pressure to increase. Also, if you remember back to the blood chapter, it is the kidney that is responsible for releasing erythropoietin, which puts the whole process of erythropoiesis, or red blood cell production, into play in the bone marrow. It also causes the activation or release of vitamin D from the kidney, so that any calcium that is taken in orally can be converted to useful calcium and used by the body. Last thing here, there are a few tests that we use to look at kidney function. A urinalysis, obviously everybody's probably had a urinalysis before. You can look at color, you can look at clarity, you can usually determine if there's some type of infection just by looking at a urinalysis. Secondly, there is what we call a creatinine level. This is what reflects the glomerular filtration rate, or basically how well the kidneys are filtrating the waste byproducts of the body. Normal value is 0.6 to 1.2 and needs to maintain within that level. If it doubles, then the filtration rate and renal function are about half what it should be. And then the last value is what we call the blood urea nitrogen level, or BUN, sometimes heard for short. Again, remember, urea is the end product of protein metabolism that we find in the liver, and eventually it is totally excreted by the kidneys. So if the kidneys are not working appropriately, then the the urea level will increase in the blood. And again, that shows that the kidneys are not functioning the way they should be.